I'm not going to worry about it right now. No, you can't worry
I'm
about
sure.
it because we're live. Welcome to the Vomitorium. Surprise, I'm getting you right at the beginning this time. As always, I am your host, The Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. How you doing today?
Great, great. I'm a year older
Yeah.
today than I was 2 days ago.
Well, I think you're
Somehow.
actually only 2 days older than you were 2 days ago, but whatever makes you feel better.
Yeah, that's not what my driver's license says. So
Yeah, yeah. Did you actually go and update your driver's license, or?
no, doesn't expire anytime soon.
Yeah, yeah. So I think your driver's license
But,
still just says the same thing it said last time.
okay, fine.
I actually
Well,
have to
it's
go
not
and
what
update my ID.
it's not what things that calculate my age say.
Yeah. Is it kind of
I don't
weird
know.
that
I
we
think
calculate age that way?
well, I guess. I mean,
Yeah. Because what we do is we
none
calculate
of it
it
matters.
based on, and I guess we do it for this reason because of infant mortality or even just child mortality. Because people used to die very frequently before the age of 9, and if you made it past 9, you would kind of be okay up until adulthood, unless you died from like war or something because you were a boy and you were gonna have to go out to war.
Yeah.
So we calculate it upon completing a year. So you're already in that next cycle of your life because you start it upon exiting the womb. At least that's how we start calculating it. So you're in your first year as you're born, but they don't count you as being a year old until after you've completed it. And it makes logical sense. It's just kind of weird when you think about it. It's like that first year really didn't count until it was over.
And mathematically, you should round up at 6 months. So
Yeah.
should be should round to 1 year when you hit 6 months.
I think it's because you didn't want to get attached to anyone under 9 for the longest time because you're like, I mean, they're still your kid. You want them to survive, but people used to have big families for a reason. You weren't sure any of them would make it to adulthood, so you're like, I can't get too attached to you.
Yeah, we don't want to like name it or anything until it gets older.
Oh, I think people forget too, like, you growing up Jewish, obviously, that the tradition is probably in your head, but like, adulthood used to start a lot earlier than it does in the modern day because of stuff like that too. Like basically, what now we
Well,
consider puberty, that's kind of about when adulthood was starting for most of history.
but I mean, yeah, I got bar mitzvahed at 13, but nobody thought of me, including myself, as an adult at that point.
No, but part of the tradition's still there, but nobody actually really acknowledges it in the same way anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I think as arbitrary as it is, I think 18 is a good age, I suppose.
Yeah.
to
Well, I
just
think
say,
any
but I mean,
arbitrary age is good as long as all of society agrees on it and everybody
Yeah.
collectively is working to make sure people feel like they're adults by the time they get there. Right?
yeah, that's what I was going to say, though, is the problem is less and less of society is considering that to be an adult.
Yeah, like,
Because-
you really couldn't go before puberty. 13-ish is about where the cutoff would have to be, no matter what society you're in. But, like, 16 to 20, any age in there is fine as long as all of society agrees on it, and everybody's pushing you there, but nobody's doing it anymore, so...
Yeah, I know. All these 20-somethings are all like, oh, I'm just a child, or women don't have any agency if they're in their 20s and stuff like that. It's like, what?
Yeah, I find that so weird. I think it's because I always had to act very adult, having to, like, escort my brothers and stuff around town. I was forced into, like, this weird border between child and adult very early in my life. So it's like a weird mentality of, like, I'm just a kid.
Well, and I found it's, I guess, taboo to, it's ridiculous, but like, you know, it used to be that, like, you know, younger women would marry older men.
Yeah.
Because there was some economic parity at that point, you know, because generally speaking,
in the broad
women
sense of economics,
start out, but women start out with a economic value very, very high,
Yeah.
early on, and it only
it gets
goes
lower.
down typically. And men start out very, very low, and it goes
And it
up
goes
gradually.
up. Yeah.
So once they meet, then you've got people, potentially a good match. Now I can understand. I mean, I got married young to someone I met in college, and I can understand them both being equals and sort of growing together. I mean, that's a perfectly valid way to go about life.
Well,
but
I think it's more necessary for one big reason, and why the economic value was greater for having larger disparities in the past than it is now. And part of that is women's mortality, right? So for most of history, women were very likely that the way they're going to die is in childbirth, right? Whether it's your first child or your fifth, you're just very likely the way you're going out in this world is going to be in childbirth. For most of history, it's not very likely now. It's a very rare thing for women to die in childbirth. And because of that, women for a long time had a lower life expectancy than men, even considering the fact that most men were going out to war, right? But then as medicine gets better, women's life expectancy starts to catch up and then eclipse men, especially considering that men take dangerous jobs and go out to war and stuff like that. And because of this, you're not expecting the wealthy man to marry multiple times, right? Because you're like, oh, well, if I die in childbirth, at least my kid is with a wealthy man that can, pay to raise them right and give them a good start in the world. Like that was like the big economic offset. Now that you might have to live with this person forever, it's actually better to find somebody who's closer in your generational and cultural knowledge to actually have a more stable long-term relationship.
I suppose.
Yeah. It's not always going to be like, obviously there's exceptions to everything, but we're just generalizations.
Yeah. Well, whenever I say that, people are always like, "Oh, you just want to date a younger girl." I'm like, I already am.
Yeah,
so,
like you don't need an excuse.
I'm not really looking right now, but it does seem to work pretty well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it also helps.
Of course,
like, you can have, especially in the modern day, generational kinship with somebody outside your generation because we have such a good record of the past. And all of communication is so connected that it's not hard for somebody to pick up on a culture that they weren't raised in.
Yeah. And I mean, in my case, it's been, I guess you could say, like enlightening, educational, because I interact with someone from a younger generation. So she has different viewpoints because of the era in which she grew up.
Yeah, because people like to say that generations aren't a real thing. They're arbitrary. It's like, no. I mean, the generations will be different wherever you go, but there are cultural generations even within like communities and subcultures. Yeah. You see things.
Well, just me growing up. Yeah, I mean, me growing up in the 80s and she growing up in the 90s, we just have different viewpoints about things. And so it's been a way that my viewpoints about things have changed because of, her just talking to someone who's younger. So.
Yeah. Well, see, and
it's interesting.
This is a weird thing because I think that has a lot to do with why people are so disconnected now, because it's not a common thing, despite how connected the world is. Like me, I mean, we're talking right here. I have friends of all varying ages and generations, so you're constantly hearing things of like different people's viewpoints and stuff. And this used to actually be the case because people used to spend all their time around people of different generations within their towns and stuff, like their elders, their grandparents, their parents, and stuff like that. The next generation underneath them, cousins and everything. So you were always constantly getting the viewpoint from everyone. And I think because of this too, it's also why the generational shift used to be slower in the past as well. But now it's so fast and people get isolated to their peer group that we get like really radically different viewpoints, even just within like 5 to 10 year gaps between each other.
Yeah. Well, I also think it's helpful to have similar interests. We're both
for sure.
software developers, so both run in similar circles as well.
Well, again, in the past, interest didn't matter. Mostly because most people weren't expecting to live that long, so like economics were the most important thing for literally any relationship in the past. It's like, kids are gonna come, we gotta take care of them. Maybe only one of us will be around to take care of them.
Yeah, but I don't think I would be interested in someone who is just constantly just asking me to go camping or something crazy like that.
I need to find someone like that.
Yeah, well, I'll let you know if I run into someone.
I need somebody who wants to go camping a lot and wants to have like 10 kids or more.
Oh my God. No. And someone who's rich, I'm guessing then.
No. Dude, you get a lot of kids, eventually the money comes. At least enough. Anyway.
Okay.
No, I mean,
right.
One, it would force me to be making more money, but that's an actual economic trend you see in history, is that people who have kids, on average, tend to make more money than people in their peer group who don't. And part of it is the drive is like, there's like a internal psychological factor that you don't know that's happening that kind of turns on when a man has kids, and it actually drives them to make more money.
Interesting.
Yeah. A lot of psychological research on that.
Okay then.
Yeah.
So I've been watching an interesting show.
Have you?
That just came out yesterday.
Oh, were you watching Castlevania?
Yeah, season 4. Have you seen any of it?
I saw what I call season 1, which is the first 2 parts, which together equal the full season.
What?
Well, the first 2 parts, or what they call season 1 and 2. There's 4 episodes, and then there's like another 8 episodes, and together that makes a full season. But they call them 2 different parts. It's like, no, I'm sorry, Castlevania, that's 1 season.
Yeah. All right. So you saw seasons 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Was 2? There was. I remember. I guess it was season 2, episode 7, was the only episode in the whole show where they actually had a scene where they played Castlevania music, and it was the best episode of the entire series.
I agree.
I'd have to say.
It was also the episode that, other than the music too, felt the most like Castlevania, because I was digging the first 4 episodes very well, but it felt like it wasn't Castlevania, right? It felt like somebody's fan fiction of what they understood Castlevania to be. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It just,
well,
there's a lot of weird things
I have
about
to say, I liked season 3 a lot. I thought season 3 was really good. I don't know if it was my favorite season. 2 might have been, but I don't really remember. But season 3 was a lot of setup. But I liked it despite that. But it was a lot of setup, and then 4 was a bit of a letdown. I mean, and I don't want to spoil it too much, but they resolved everything, which is good. At least they resolved it. And there were some surprises, but it just, exactly like you said, it was more of a fan fiction of what somebody who's vaguely understands Castlevania might put together.
And I kind of felt like it was going to continue in that direction, even just from those first 4 episodes, and even into the second part, I kept that feeling. Aside from that 1 episode, that 1 episode was baller. If the whole series was like that, I would like it a lot more.
I know. Well, it's a shame because there were lots of parts to the last, 3 episodes of the last season where I was like, they could have made this so much better. Just put the songs in. Just put the appropriate songs, because, I mean, half of Castlevania it's kind of like Mega Man. Like half of the
Yeah.
quality and the nostalgia is the music.
Well, for the
Like you
old ones
gotta have the
especially,
music.
yeah. Like the
Yeah.
after Symphony of the Night and on, a lot of it is the artwork and the
Hmm.
mechanics, right? Like after that point,
Yeah.
the mechanics of the game really start shining and holding out. But before that, yeah, a lot of it's just the music.
Yeah. And like
Freaking
they
Vampire
did a good
Killer.
job with
Ba-da-da-da-da-da,
yeah.
ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah. There was God, without spoiling it, there was one scene where I was like, bloody tears, man. You've got to have the bloody tears song right
Yeah.
now. And they didn't do it. And I was like, son of a bitch. It's like that would have been perfect. It would have sent chills down my spine if they had played that song for this one scene. I'm like, why didn't they do it? I just don't understand. And so it got into a lot of anime kind of stuff. Anime fights, very unbelievable,
Yep.
but cool. Very cool stuff. So I mean, I can't complain. Like as a standalone just series and season 4 included, um, it was good. I liked it. I
Well, you know
sent
what
I
their
sent
first
out a bit of
mistake
a
was?
what's that?
Their first mistake was starting with Trevor and deciding we're going to kind of go in a chronological order like this. That's assuming if they ever continue to do it, which I doubt they will, based from what I was
No, I
hearing
don't
and
think
from
so.
the ending. They should have, though,
Was
made this
Trevor's
a. Hmm?
was Simon Trevor's son or just
I think
descendant?
grandson? There's not. I know there's not a lot of generations between them.
Hmm.
He's either like grandson or great grandson, I think.
Hmm.
I could look up the family tree in a
Well,
second. But
I think it was a good place to start
yeah, they should have
because
started with Simon, and then when people were confused, like, man, I really want to know about the setup here. Then you can go and do the prequel season.
Mhm. I don't know. I mean, I think I like the what they did because it's like Trevor was really the first one to ever defeat Dracula.
Yeah,
He was the one that had Sypha and Grant and everyone. I mean, I think there was just a lot more lore around Trevor that they could work off of, and sort of the beginnings of some of those characters. I mean, I guess they introduced a lot of characters that maybe were from other
yeah.
games. The what were they called? The I forget what they're called, forgers or something like that. These guys, Isaac and God, I can't even remember the names. Um, the guys that basically created all of the demons and creatures
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. Uh, those were the most intriguing characters of the whole
And
show, I
Isaac.
thought.
Isaac.
Hmm?
Well,
Well,
because
you didn't
Isaac
like
look
Isaac?
he looks nothing like the way that he did in the games. They
Oh, that
kind
didn't
of
bother me.
they diversified him.
Oh, well, that didn't bother me.
Yeah.
Um, Let me see the characters.
I mean, he's a supernatural being, so I guess it doesn't really matter, but
Mhm.
still.
Isaac and Hector. Hector. That's who it was. He was the other. What was the name of the? Shoot. I should have written this stuff down before.
Man,
Anyway,
I
those
also
are the
just
two guys.
realized that there's an OC remix that I don't have on my computer anymore that I need to go hunt down. I was looking for it. I had to play a different one. I was looking for like this really badass cover of Vampire Killer, and like, why do I not have this on my computer anymore?
Yeah. But anyway, I was disappointed with the resolution of Hector's story. Seemed like it was going to be interesting, but in the end, it was disappointing and kind of. Yeah, I mean, I felt like they could have given him a happy ending, and it wasn't like tragic, but it was just kind of sad, and it was just a bit disappointing. Um,
there needs to be more tragic endings in Castlevania. Period. That's kind of
well,
the story of Castlevania is
they could have made
mostly
it
a
tragic.
tragedy.
But see, okay, so they could have made it tragic, but they didn't. They just made it sad and a
Yeah.
downer. It's like, they could have there's a certain character, they could have had this character basically get killed at the end, and it would have been tragic, but in a good way.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened. It was just like, oh, we're just gonna end this now. Okay.
Yeah, because if you actually look at the
okay.
lore and history of Castlevania, it's mostly tragedies with silver linings. That's like the whole history of like the Belmont clan and everybody who ends up associated with them.
Yeah. But I mean, but then they had like somewhat arbitrary happy endings for people. Like, well, I don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
The ending was a bit too happy.
For Castlevania, yeah,
Like,
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I don't even have to watch it
it's
to
like,
know that.
yeah, I mean, just believe me, the ending was like, oh, it's like, and they lived happily ever after. Wow, that's
Did
very
Dracula
sunny
at least
and-
spank his son?
I don't think so.
No.
But yeah, he didn't even throw a glass down and say, "What is a man?" A miserable pile of secrets. But I don't know what else to say. Oh, they of course had to gender swap Grant.
Yeah, obviously.
Grant was a woman. At first, I was like, they introduced this character, and I was like, when are they going to have Grant? And I didn't even put two and two together until a couple of episodes later, and then I heard her name. Her name was like Greta or something like that.
Yeah, you're like, oh.
And I was like, oh, that's supposed to be Grant. Give me a fucking break. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I put up like a bit of a complaining tweet about it, but then I ended up deleting it because I was like, I don't want to be too negative because it was
it just sounds like you're bitching at that point.
Yeah, it was a good I mean, like I said, standalone show, it was great. It was very good. 7 or 8 out of 10. But as a Castlevania adaptation, maybe a 5.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, like, you say there's more to work with. That's fine. This is why I would probably focus a bigger chunk of the show afterwards. But for just a single season, I would have went to Simon's first journey, right? And I would have just mostly focused on him fucking shit up. Mostly action, put in the music, maybe him getting lost in the castle a couple times, because that place is confusing as fuck. But just 12 episodes of him fucking shit up and then fighting Dracula.
Yeah.
Then we can cut back and like, okay, this is how everything got started. And then after having Trevor's story resolved, then we can go back over and it's like, okay, so we went from 1 to 3, now we're going to 2. And we're gonna meet back up with Simon again.
Yeah.
That's how I would have
Yeah, I
done the
mean,
series.
there is potential. They definitely left the door open. I doubt they're going to, but they left the door open to go into, because they resolved Trevor's story. So
the same studio's making another show soon. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Mhm.
Oh, aren't they the ones working on the Devil May Cry show? Because I think they said they were bringing back Devil May Cry as like an animation. And I think it was that same studio that's doing it. It's either that or there was another show. We kept hearing all these rumors of shows and stuff over like 2019 and early 2020 before you know what happened.
Yeah. Well, they definitely could, because it definitely. That's why I was kind of asking you, hint, hint, about whether Simon was his son or not. But regardless,
I don't remember exactly. I know there's not a lot of generational gap, but it's not hard to find the Belmont family tree.
Yeah, but anyway, they could. They definitely could. They left it resolved, and yet more could happen if they want. So, but I did like the portrayal of Sypha, and I liked Trevor. He was a bit sullen at first, and he was like an alcoholic or whatever, but his character evolved.
Oh, no.
They
Okay,
definitely
they've
had it.
added a lot more in between then. At first, I
Oh.
thought there was only 2 generations between them, like he was like a grandson or great-grandson. And that's how it kind of used to be. But as more and more games came out, they filled things up. And there are 2 unknown descendants between Trevor and Christopher Belmont. Then Christopher's son is Soliel Belmont, who then has a number of unknown descendants between him and Simon.
Crazy.
Yeah. So for all we know, there could be like 100 or so years in between Trevor and Simon.
They did sort of. Well, I don't really know all like that much detail about the Castlevania lore, but I know like Dracula is supposed to be resurrected every 100 years or something like that.
Yeah, and there's like a number of unknown descendants between Leon and Trevor, and Leon is like the progenitor of the Belmont clan.
Okay. Well, I don't know, and it felt like they were trying to like insert some stuff that may be fan service.
Yeah.
But I didn't recognize it, so I may just not be familiar enough. Like certain names of towns and things like that, where I was like, I feel like I should know the name of that town. Like they said it, and I'm just like, I don't recognize that. So I have no idea if they just made shit up or if they would.
You kind of have to really be a fan to be able to tell, like a really indie, because there's a lot of lore to Castlevania, but most of it's not in your face.
Yeah, it's like you gotta read up on it. Like it's not obvious from the games.
Or even if it is in the games,
actually,
like some of the later ones, there are like bookshelves in certain areas where if you actually hold up next to the shelf, it'll read like passages of somebody's diary or something. It's like most people are like, I'm not gonna read this shit, and they just go on.
Yeah, exactly. Like who is the main character in the 3D Castlevania on the N64?
Oh, I'm trying to remember which one was that.
And I guess it was called Castlevania 60.
Because there was like 2 Castlevanias for the 64, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah, Reinhard Schneider. Who the hell is that?
Oh, he's not a.
And
He's like one of the sub things. Because you know there are branches of other families, right?
Yeah.
Like there's also what's his name?
Oh,
The dude from Portrait of Ruin is a different family. The Moore family is they're part of the Belmont clan, but they're like a cutaway. Or the Morris. I'm trying to remember.
Hector was in Castlevania 64.
Yeah.
Forge Master. That's what Hector and Isaac were. Forge Master. Basically converted humans into demons. Forge Master.
I mean, there are only
Isaac was a
8
pretty
named,
cool character.
only 8 named Belmonts.
Yeah, so like after watching a few episodes, I went and downloaded like Dawn of Sorrow.
Oh, dude, that's
and
my favorite of all of them.
Really?
Yeah, but you realize you're playing a sequel to a game, right?
Sequel to a game?
Yeah, there's also Aria of Sorrow for the Game Boy Advance that came before Dawn of Sorrow.
Oh, okay. I probably played that too. But no, I played it at the beginning and I was like, do I really want to play this? I don't know. I'm not.
With all the games you're already playing.
I know. I was just fiddling, but I actually downloaded Portrait of Ruin and Order of Ecclesia as well.
Yeah, but
oh my god, Order of Ecclesia?
Favorite.
Order of Ecclesia has so much fucking dialogue at the beginning. It's like 30 minutes of it. I'm like, shut up. Just get to the game. I had never played that one before, but I've played Dawn of Sorrow and Portrait of Ruin. And I'm pretty sure I played Aria of Sorrow too.
Probably.
Is it Aria of Sorrow?
Yeah, Aria of Sorrow for the Game Boy Advance. It's the first time that Soma Cruz shows up.
I always thought it was funny that they called it Dawn of Sorrow because it was the first DS game.
Yeah. They did that a lot, like with games. Everybody was trying to add the DS in there somewhere. Like my brother had a Full Metal Alchemist game that basically went through the whole story of the anime, and it was called Full Metal Alchemist Dual Symphonies because of the DS. And...
Cheesy. I guess it's
But,
better than
yeah.
calling everything 64.
Yeah, I mean, at least you can work with the DS.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
But yeah, Soma Cruz is my favorite Castlevania character, and I like the Belmont clan, but I like him more than any of the Belmonts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably because, like, I mean, he is a very standard and stable archetype that's existed since, like, the early 60s. He's basically just Elric of Melbourne. And just like Cecil is. There's a big commonality. It's like, hey, name off some of your favorite video game characters. Half of them are just Elric.
Mm-hmm. Is that what Elric's story was? Does he start out as a bad guy or something and become good?
Kind of. He was an emperor or of a lost kingdom. His father is a tyrant and he was anemic. But he gets this sword that basically devours blood or like the souls of people. And it makes him strong. So the people he was killing was making him stronger. Some people have put some twists on it. You get that with Cecil Harvey in Final Fantasy IV, except instead of the people he's killing, he's using his own blood or HP to get stronger when he uses like dark and stuff. Dante and Soma Cruz are both kind of Elric archetypes too. Everybody who's an Elric archetype tends to have white hair, just like Elric did. But both of them get stronger from the blood and souls of their enemy. They might even get.
So is Alucard basically? Is he basically Elric?
A little, yeah. But to be fair, there's not that much of a difference between Soma and Alucard, except the difference is that Alucard is the son of Dracula. Soma is the incarnation of Dracula, one of a couple that exist, who also refuses the incarnation after you give him that medallion from the chick. I can't remember her name. But if you put that on him before you go to the ending, it'll stop him from becoming Dracula. And then you actually get to go into the second half of the game, because they give you that false ending, and you're like, man, this is a shitty, tragic ending. And you're like, oh, I gotta play as freaking Julius Belmont and the other crew to make sure that he has this pendant on him before we go into that scene. And then there's a whole nother fucking half of the game after that. I thought that was good design, though. It's just like, God damn you.
Well, there's a lot less nudity in this season.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same amount of, violence and cartoon gore. But I was a bit disappointed by the lack of nudity compared to the last season.
Yeah. Castlevania isn't exactly a game series that I put 1-to-1 with nudity. It's not one that I don't consider too, because there are some like they've been censored here in the States, but there's some like female harpy monsters and sirens and things that are basically nude in the sprites in the original versions of the game. But it's like it's one of those like take it or miss it. I don't exactly associate it with nudity, but I don't not at the same time.
I guess they figure, hey, we're already going to be R-rated, so might as well.
Yeah.
But, it actually didn't really factor in. I didn't care. But I remember there were some interesting scenes, especially with Alucard. Yeah. In Season 3, there were some interesting scenes with Alucard and a couple of people, actually.
Yeah. Listen, people think we get upset only when like female nudity gets censored. I would be equally upset if you were like re-releasing Metal Gear Solid, like I think was it 2 or was it 3? One of them had the Raiden scene. If you were like censoring the level where Raiden has to sneak through the compound naked without getting caught or weapons, I would be upset if you censored that too. Okay, I want things to just be the way they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Hmm. Speaking of which, when is Diablo 2 remake coming out?
I don't know. More relevant to the conversation of Netflix animation, have you seen these preview images for Masters of the Universe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Some
Are they
good.
as disappointing as you thought they would be?
One of them was.
I don't dislike the way He-Man looks. I think they actually did justice to the design of that character.
To He-Man?
Yeah, to He-Man himself.
What is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Battle Cat or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that looks cool. I think Skeletor looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even see if what's the guy's name? Man of War?
Man at
Is that his
Arms?
name? Man at Arms? Man of War.
Yeah.
Man at Arms. I didn't even see him in there.
Yeah, I haven't seen
at
a
all.
picture of him either.
But yeah, obviously Evelyn and Tila are pretty bleh.
Yeah.
Orko looks alright. Someone pointed out Orko looks exactly like a Digimon.
We kind of always did, to be fair. or I guess you could
They
say
gave
some
him,
Digimon were based off of Orko, like especially Wizardmon was kind of just like straight up based off of Orko, but they gave him a face.
Mm-hmm. But they gave him like anime eyes
Yeah.
for some reason, which is kind of weird. But it didn't. Actually, I didn't even notice it until somebody pointed it out. I was like, oh,
Yeah, well, because
he's
he's kind of a cartoony character, even amongst animated characters, so I don't think it would stand out unless somebody really pointed out. It's like, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
he's stylized. He's different than everyone else.
yeah. But they gave Tila. Is it Tila? Is that her name?
Yeah.
The danger hair, the shaved head, shaved.
Well, the thing is, I saw concept art for her before this, like official concept art, and it looked mostly like her old outfit. So I don't know if that's just how she's gonna start in the show, and she's gonna progress towards it or not. I don't want to judge too much from what limited things I've seen, but I did not like the way she looked. I do have to agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Although the picture of
The sorceress.
what's her name? The sorceress.
Yeah, she looked great. And the
Yeah.
glowy effects that you do with modern animation, that looked good too.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I really couldn't complain too much.
Yeah,
I
I'll
mean,
give it a chance. It doesn't look like trash like frickin' She-Ra.
Yeah, She-Ra or Thundercats.
Yeah.
Ho or whatever.
It's a different studio,
Yeah.
right? It's not the same people that were working on on that anyway. So we were expecting like, okay, maybe this won't be crap. What was it? Is it Mattel or Hasbro? Who's the one that owns those? Whoever the studio was, they had kept them separated. Like even the toy lines and everything had been keeping the two separated. And He-Man wasn't going to show up in She-Ra, probably because they didn't want that show to reflect on the Masters of the Universe show.
It looks like it's Mattel.
Mattel, okay. I knew it was one of the two. I've got the thing right in front of me, too, in this paragraph, if I bothered to read down. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, people were real focused on Tila, and Evelyn looks pretty blah.
Yeah.
But other than that, the rest of them look great. I mean, good. It's like our standards are so freaking low. It's like, okay, if it doesn't look like utter trash, then it must be good. Then it's good. It's like, please just don't. Well,
and I like the fact that He-Man actually looks like He-Man. Like he's ripped as fuck, and that's what He-Man needs to look like. He needs to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger back when he was Mr. Universe, but then on steroids on top of that. That's what He-Man needs to look like.
I mean, even Prince Adam looked pretty ripped.
He should, right? Except for what was the remake? That was in the mid-aughts, I think. I didn't dislike the idea of kind of like the Shazamming of Prince Adam, where he was more of like a normal lean-bodied man, and then he became He-Man. It was a much better way of distinguishing them, because otherwise it's like, come on, original cartoon, people didn't realize that Prince Adam was He-Man, even though they have the exact same hair and build. The only difference is like, oh, now he's got this weird freaking bra piece on instead of his shirt.
Yeah, it's like even worse than, Superman take off his glasses. It was, the only thing he did was take off his shirt. Really.
Yeah.
And,
But like
although
in
his
the
voice
remake,
changed.
yeah, in the remake when Adam was actually a smaller guy and then became He-Man, it's like, okay, I could
Hmm.
see, even though their face is almost exactly the same, and you should still kind of like,
Hmm.
there's something up about that. I could see people like, what in magical hell would make him become that guy? That's got to be a different person. It's a coincidence.
Yeah, yeah. Must be the power of Grayskull.
Yeah. That people barely believe in too, right? Like that's what I
Yeah.
liked about that
Well, and
version of the show was that it's like you knew that Skeletor was trying to get the power from Grayskull and stuff like that, but it was always skeptical of like, is there even power in Grayskull? As opposed to
yeah,
the original where like everything was accepted about that world, right? There definitely was power in Grayskull. We knew what Skeletor
yeah,
want. This sword has the power from Grayskull. How can we not put two and two together that this person that looks exactly like Prince Adam is He-Man?
yeah. Well, but it made more sense to make him bigger because, like, Cringer got huge,
Yes.
right? Cringer became much bigger.
Much bigger.
Like, I don't think you could even ride Cringer. He was a tiger, but kind of small. But so it makes more sense for He-Man to be.
Yeah,
bigger
I
as
thought
well.
it was a smart idea. I actually kind of like that remake in general. Like, I watched reruns of He-Man growing up until that kind of like reboot came out. And then from like a standalone, if you just looked at the lore of the show, it actually made sense to itself. Like it was attempting to make a solid world out of this property that already existed. And I like it when people attempt to do that. I wish more people would attempt to do that instead of like, no, we're just going to do whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah. And I liked, I never bothered to find out what the lore was like in that She-Ra
Yeah.
show, but in the original, it was a really compelling story
Oh, yeah.
because like she started off evil. She
Yes.
started off the right-hand man of the whatever Hordak or whatever his name was, and she had a whole arc and became the leader of the resistance and all that. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's a shame that they felt they had to change all that because it was like it was a genuinely female empowering show. That's the whole point of the show. The
Yes.
original show was it had a female showrunner. They wanted to do a female He-Man, and they did. They did a heroic,
Yeah, and they put
She-Ra.
put her on the same level. It's like, oh, did you know he had a twin?
Yeah, and there was nothing wrong with it. I mean, it was
Nothing wrong at all.
and everyone
I
loved
like
it.
She-Ra, the original, yeah.
And then people are, the people who made the new show apparently hated it because she was beautiful.
Yeah, and she even had
she's
like her
beautiful.
own
Must
version
be.
of like Orko and stuff like that too. Like
Yeah,
it was the same, but it was different,
Female.
right? Like you weren't just rerunning He-Man. There was independent plots, some things that focused more on her being a woman. Like there was a point to her being a woman rather than just like, oh, we're going to do the same thing as He-Man, but with a different person.
Yeah, no, it's a very different character because, like I said, like He-Man never was evil to begin
Yeah.
with. So, I mean, she was, she had a completely different arc and an interesting story. So, yeah, I've heard that too. Joshua says, I heard that He-Man isn't going to be the main character. That's what Clownfish TV claimed that was a rumor, and they got slammed for it. They were like,
but even like
people were
articles
like,
about
"Nah."
it now are saying that too, right? Like one of the main plot
Yeah.
points even says it's up to Tila to reunite the broken band of heroes after decades of being torn apart, Now, that necessarily wouldn't be bad if they were both main characters and they split the time, right? Like maybe He-Man is strong enough to handle himself, but the power's not enough for him to take down this whole group of people. So you have like a split of time of him handling the problems and then Tila running around reuniting the old Masters of the Universe to help He-Man.
Mhm.
You could actually make...
And then
That's
there's-
not what they're going to do. That's not what they're going to do. But you can make a compelling show that way.
Yeah. And they didn't do She-Ra like that. They didn't say, well, the main character is really going to be this other man, and she's just going to be.
Well, to be fair, it's not called He-Man.
tough.
The name of the show is Masters of the Universe Revelation. Now, if there wasn't a single main character, I also wouldn't mind that, right? If the show's about the Masters of the Universe, you should still give a little more time to He-Man than anyone else because it is He-Man. But if you were trying to like divide it up and have different character arcs based on the different masters, and Teela being considered one of the newer Masters of the Universe, that's all fine. That's not what they're going to do, but that would be another fine way of doing it.
Well, what they should do is basically divide the screen time and the heroics between Teela and Man-at-Arms, because they were kind of the two, non-superpowered characters that were, alongside He-Man. But
I don't know. Man-at-Arms is just as super as everyone else. He has the power of being super fucking ripped.
That's right.
Everyone was ripped.
How much you want to?
That was why that show was great. Even Teela was kind of ripped with a feminine figure, but she was even kind of ripped for a woman. You're like, everybody was ripped. That's all you need. I don't need anything else. Just a bunch of these like roid rage people swinging swords at each other and slinging magic, and I'm happy. Let's just go with that.
I mean, even like Skeletor and Beastman were like ridiculously ripped. Yeah. Right?
Skeletor was a skeleton on his face because of like the acid and stuff, but the rest of his body was still just like a hulking mass like anyone else.
Oh yeah,
hey man.
Yeah, he looked. I've recently watched some episode. I was like, God damn, Skeletor! What's with the muscles? Jeez.
And he looks like he's still fucking huge in this one too. From what little you can see of the screenshot. It looks like his shoulders are fucking huge. You can see his hand is huge up in the screen, and he's got like a huge forearm connecting to it. So I'm like, yeah, Skeletor's going to be as ripped as he should fucking be.
That's good. But yeah, I mean, frankly, this is not one of the shows that like I cared all that much about when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I will not be surprised if they totally fuck it up.
I'll at least give it a chance though, because it's on Netflix. I have Netflix. It visually the show looks good. Like I haven't seen it in action. I only see stills. I don't know how good the animation is, but at least from design, it doesn't look like a half-ass show. So I'll at least give it a couple episodes.
Oh, that was another thing. I forgot about that. There was this really preachy, bizarre scene in Castlevania.
Oh, was there?
Where, it was just one scene, so I could, again, I can't complain too much, but it was just like so in your face about colonialism. Ugh. It was just like, really? Like it totally takes you out, like it totally breaks you out of the show. It just breaks your, whatever, your suspension of disbelief or whatever, where it's just like, really? She's just going to sit there and just go on and on about colonialism?
In the time that they're in, too, where this is the thing, like, sure, maybe some people would care that they've personally been colonized, but most people wouldn't give a fucking shit at that time.
Well, it was specifically, what they did was they related, it was about vampires.
Yeah.
Basically trying to take over the world or whatever. How wrong it was, which of course when it's vampires. But
an actual demonic being that was powered by Satan and death itself.
Yeah. And is taking over the world so that they can basically have an unending supply of humans to consume. But we're going to take you out of that and then talk about basically modern colonialism.
Is during that time, because this, if we're counting that, and Castlevania does kind of go off of this timeline, that it starts with Stoker's Dracula, right? Castlevania kind of does assume that the people who played it first are aware of the book Dracula. It kind of builds off of that in some case. This is many generations later. During that whole, like, couple 100-year period, that area of Transylvania, Romania would have been under German occupation. So they actually could have related something to that and been tactful about it.
Yeah.
But instead,
Well,
they uglily use
frankly,
vampires as their kind of like scapegoat for a problem that they currently have with the world.
yeah, I mean, frankly, they already did that. I mean, that was
Mhm.
sort of a big part of the story of season 3 and 4. They didn't need like whatever. I mean, I guess it would end up
This
being like
preachy
2 or 3 minute
Yeah.
like speech about it. Like, okay, we got it. You didn't have to give us a stupid, don't treat us like idiots. We understood what you were trying to
Yeah.
say. They
But
just
that's
feel
the
like,
funny thing too, right? Like
let me turn to the audience and
technically everyone
sorry,
should
and
be speaking German in that show.
yeah, really. They're in Wallachia or whatever.
Yeah.
That's where it took place.
Maybe
But
catch
yeah.
like a few old people that are stuck in their ways that might be actually speaking Transylvanian. But everybody, for the
Mhm.
most part, especially the clergy, they'd all basically be speaking German and
Yeah.
Latin, because they would have to be reading it. They would know Italian, but who would be speaking Italian outside of Italy?
Well, Stipe spoke English in sort of a Romanian accent.
Yeah. Well, accent-wise, they'd
Isn't that
probably
what
all
they
still have the whatever the accent should be in that area.
Yeah.
But they're speaking English to us. We're assuming this world is being translated.
Yeah. So what do they speak on Eternia?
I don't know.
I guess English.
They speak the common tongue. That's always the best way to put it. Whatever the common tongue of the land is, that's what they speak. It was like in the RPG
Yeah.
we're playing. That's language common tongue is just whatever language common. It's whatever the common language is that everybody speaks. On our planet, it happens to be Mandarin.
Yeah, that's the common tongue.
It is by like a decent margin. The only reason English is in second place is mostly because of India.
Mhm. Was there any connection? I don't remember. Was there any connection between Eternia and Earth?
I don't know. I
I
actually do not know that. It's been a long time since I've jumped into the lore of that show, or since I've watched an episode of the show. So I'd have to dig in to know, but off the top of my head, I'm not aware.
Yeah, I had I might be it might be a false memory, but I had in my mind that it was kind of a what do you call it? Shoot, what's the word for like a portal show where you go to a different world?
Like an isekai or whatever.
Isekai. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had in my mind that He-Man.
What do they call them? A portal would actually be the term. A portal story. Alice in Wonderland is one of the earliest common portal stories.
Yeah. I had in my mind for some reason that Prince Adam originally came from Earth, but that might have been false. Okay, never mind then.
Captain N is an isekai, though.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, didn't like that terrible movie with was it Dolph Lundgren? Didn't they go to Earth in that movie?
I don't remember.
Movie?
I don't actually remember that movie at all. Like I know I've seen it before, horrible. But like I think I'm purging it from my memory. That's how bad it was.
Yeah, that's good. It's good.
I was like a kid when I saw it too, so it makes it easier to purge from my memory.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure I've seen some of it. I'm not sure if I've seen the whole thing or not, or if I changed the channel at some point. Yeah. I was like, no, I'm not watching this crap. I'm sure it was on TV at some point.
I watched all the way through because, like I said, as a kid, I was watching reruns of He-Man. So when it actually came on, it was like a special presentation. They were showing the old He-Man or the Masters of the Universe movie. It's like, okay, I'll watch it. I regretted it. I watched it all the way to the end.
I probably did too. I just don't remember. But I do remember they like came to Earth, I think. Pretty sure. Because that's what you always do in movies.
Super Mario Brothers is also an isekai.
Yes. Well, the movie was.
Yes, well, early on, before they changed the lore to where they were born in the Mushroom Kingdom with Yoshi's Island, there were a lot of different takes of Mario that actually involved him going from Brooklyn through sewer pipes or a drain over to the Mushroom Kingdom. The Super Show counts that as the story. There was a Japanese animated film that also kind of counted that as the story too. That was actually the common lore for Mario up until Yoshi's Island 2, or Yoshi's Island Super Mario World 2.
Yeah. Hey, Piper, how's it going? Good to see you.
So yes, Mario was originally an isekai.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. I'm just pointing that to everyone in the audience. I want you to think about the world in that mindset. That Super Mario was originally an isekai.
Yeah. What do people have against isekai?
I don't know.
They feel like it's like lazy writing.
Well, it's the way they're handled now, right? So the actual isekai just means another world. Like literally, that's what the characters mean.
Yeah.
And every single isekai story that's been coming out for the last half decade has been the fucking same. It's this guy dies and then just becomes OP in the other world and has to learn how to deal with being OP.
Yeah.
It's a very boring, ran over story.
Yeah. Timothy is confused.
Yeah.
Timothy, isekai is just a portal story. Basically, the hero comes from one world and goes to another world.
It's just the Japanese name for it. It literally just means another world.
Right.
And it's been going on for a lot longer than people had actually been using the name for things.
Yeah. Castlevania wasn't an isekai, at least, so.
Yeah, at least that's the case.
Yeah. Wasn't he called something else? Who, Mario?
I mean, he was called by his nickname Jumpman at first, but later on, he's referred to Mario, quotations, Jumpman Mario. They just acknowledge it was supposed to be a nickname.
But I don't want to get into this because we had this discussion on Wednesday.
We did have this discussion.
I don't want to get
you can go back
and
you can rewatch it. And my rant on why frickin' Mario and Donkey Kong should have the same anniversary. That's not what we're talking about today. Actually, we only have 3 minutes left in the show.
Yeah. We already had that rant. They started out in the same goddamn game. Damn it. So, are there still? I keep seeing more rumors about a Donkey Kong game coming out this year.
I do too. I hope it's true. I want to play a Donkey Kong Odyssey game. That would be fun as fuck.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like we said, DK64 that doesn't suck.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Make it happen, Nintendo, if you haven't already. At least have the rumor be your motivation to prove them right.
That's right. Yeah, as if they could start right now and make one by the end of the year. Sure.
I mean, probably, knowing Nintendo. They choose not to. They've got the resources. They could just put like 100 people on the project and probably have it done by the end of the year using the same engine that Odyssey, they already built for Odyssey. Like, they shouldn't, because it would probably involve some level of crunch time that may not be healthy. But like, they could, very realistically.
Yeah. So, are you gonna watch seasons 3 and 4?
I might. No? I got a lot of things I gotta watch. I still gotta watch Mortal Kombat, which I'm not looking forward to.
Do you have HBO Max?
No, but when's that ever stopped me?
Oh, okay. Curious.
I do have Netflix, though, so I can watch Castlevania legally.
Well, it's funny. Did you see, I think it was Nick Ricciardo was ranting about a CBR article about Mortal Kombat?
I was watching the whole show. I was in there.
Oh, you watched that? Okay. Yeah, that was crazy, where they were complaining about Sonya. And he was like, Sonya was the one character, the only one, where they had like a full arc of showing her beating a guy and getting her dragon mark.
Now, he was talking about something that because I've seen a few scenes from Mortal Kombat. I just haven't watched the whole movie. Part of his rant was actually making a lot of sense to me on why I wasn't even liking the scenes I was watching. And it was the whole thing that this isn't even episode 1. This is more like a prequel to the movie that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
does explain why Johnny Cage wasn't in it.
Yeah, I'm like,
Because
oh
yeah,
man, I
this
don't even really want to watch that. I just want to go to episode 1.
yeah, but they had like a makeshift or kind of an impromptu tournament. It was an unofficial tournament before the tournament, so it was still good. But yeah, it's funny how people are like, yeah, Cole Young had literal plot armor,
Yeah.
like the armor like comes over his body, and suddenly he's just basically invulnerable to anything.
Yep.
So that's
Well,
kind
with
of kind
that,
of a silly character.
it is the end of the show. Thank you,
Oh,
everyone,
sad.
for showing up to the Vomitorium, whether you were here early, late, or in between, or if you're catching this later on any of the other platforms this goes up on. As always, I'm your host, The Metal, and joining me was Marsupial Gamer. Thanks for being here. And we'll catch you guys later. If you enjoy the show, share it with somebody else who may enjoy it. And if you really enjoyed the show, consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for the full show from 6 to
3
9.
hours.
3 hours, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You guys take it easy.
See ya.